Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. A warm welcome to everyone joining Cyberview's third live panel discussion. My name is Nadia from Cyberview, Sindra and Berhad, and I'll be your moderator for today. Now, before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that we will have a Q&A session at the end of the discussion where we will address your queries. And in the meantime, you can submit your questions, ideas through the chat box that we have here on Zoom at any time throughout the session. Please do submit your questions and we will get to them at the end of the discussion. So now just a brief background of today's topic. The rapid pace of technological change coupled with ever-changing consumer demands can be perplexing for businesses, big or small. Furthermore, the recent pandemic has driven businesses to accelerate the adoption of technology to stay afloat. And these changes do not only disrupt the way we work, but has also increased the demand for new kinds of digital skills. And so, ladies and gentlemen, finding and acquiring talent with the right digital skills becomes even more complex than before and also necessary. At Cyberview, we champion Cyberjaya as a vibrant global tech hub, the center of Malaysia's tech innovations. Towards this end, we have built a collaborative ecosystem where technology will continue to power the growth of Cyberjaya as a smart city. And this would not be possible if the city is not supported by a strong and dynamic workforce. Today, we look forward to discussing and deep diving into the challenges faced by employers, as well as the opportunities and the way forward in developing our nation's digital workforce. So without further ado, let me introduce our panel speakers to talk about nurturing and acquiring talent in today's digital workforce. First, we have Ang Kah Heng. He is the Head of Innovation and Industry Development Department under the Technology Hub Development Division in Cyberview. He has over 10 years of experience in industry talent development and talent analytics, covering both scale-ups and startups. Prior to this role, he was involved in business development, focusing on attracting digital technology investment from Greater China. So welcome, Ang. Our second panelist is Derek Toh, who is the founder and CEO of WOBB, an award-winning Malaysian job portal that provides jobs for millennials. He has over 10 years of experience in the HR industry, and previously he was an associate director and global top performer at Robert Walters, a top international recruitment firm. In 2014, he completed the Stanford Entrepreneurship Program, where he worked with top mentors at Stanford University and Silicon Valley in developing the foundations of WOBB. He was also a mentor at McKinsey & Co.'s Youth Leadership Academy and has worked with some of Malaysia's brightest young talents. Thank you for being here, Derek. And our third panelist is Baktiar Hasnan, Career Advisor of MMU Career Connect Multimedia University, MMU. He has close to 15 years of experience working in the higher education industry, providing career guidance, student counseling, as well as collaborating with various companies to create career awareness and enhance career skills amongst students. And throughout his career, he has been actively involved in facilitating career development workshops, projects, and entrepreneurship efforts for students. So welcome to Baktiar as well. Thank you to all our esteemed panelists for being part of today's discussion. Again, I'd like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions through the Q&A chat box at any time throughout the discussion, and we will get to those questions later on. So first off, I have a question for Derek. The first question, Derek from WOBB. Now, WOBB has a healthy amount of employment database and statistical data by industry. So based on your experience throughout the years, what would you say are the most sought after skill sets by hiring companies, particularly in the tech and digital space? What is key in attracting quality talents for today's companies? Derek. Derek, you're on mute.
Oops. Someone that's from a tech company. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Nadia, for the introduction. Yeah, the thing about WOBB is that, I mean, as Nadia pointed out, we focus a lot on like young millennial talent, and we do have a lot of companies that are startups and technology companies that use us to hire. And even increasingly, there are more corporations who are embracing tech who want to hire a lot of this young talent. But one thing we will notice that's interesting about the data is that I think the obvious thing you would think about is if there's a lot of technology disruption, then there will be a lot of demand for technical roles. And I think to some extent, this is true, but actually it's not just that, it forms a small proportion of the entire talent market, even for tech companies. So say, I give you a simple example, like in WOBB, we are a technology company, we are a portal, but 70% of our talent is sales and marketing, not tech or developers, right? So what I'm trying to say is that basically, with a lot of, I suppose what's going on in the market right now, having a lot of technical skills is very good, but not everyone might be built to be a programmer or developer. So you could also, as an alternative, also just have a good understanding of how digital or tech companies work, right? Like you have to understand how an e-commerce company works. You have an understanding of how, like a portal works, whatever it is, right? Like how Amazon works, how social media works. All those things will help people land the jobs that they want, right? Because it's like I said earlier, like the less obvious thing is that there are a lot of jobs right now that are actually not technical, but they're in digital companies. So so this is something to be aware of. Now, to the second part of Nadia's question about the key to attracting talent, it's what I notice these days is that if you're talking about hiring top quality people, money is important. I'm not saying money is not important, but it gets to a point where you can no longer compete with money, right? So there are lots of very talented people who actually are looking beyond just money. They are looking for things like culture, long-term career, because let's say if one company, a simple example, right? One company can pay 10,000, another company can pay 11,000, another company at 12,000. At some point, it doesn't matter so much anymore. The talent, right, who's highly employable will look at it and say, like, will I enjoy working here or not? If I enjoy working here, I can do very well. If I can do very well, my career can grow. So those are like questions that a lot of talent are asking right now. And I realized this because when we first started WOBB a few years ago, and I actually went and meet employers and also the people that work there, there was actually people that walk up to me and say, oh, I wish WOBB existed, when I first graduated, because it helps us actually figure out, like look inside the company and figure out which company we want to work in, rather than just, looking at like a text-based job description. So companies that want to have a very solid talent strategy shouldn't just be thinking purely money. You should be really thinking about your culture and your employer brand as a whole. And what that basically means is, what does the talent think working in your company is like? What's their impression, the outsider's view of working in your company? Is actually very, very important. I know a lot of companies that pay very well, but when I talk to talent, but do you want to work in this company? They're like, this one, like don't want because I heard this and that. Like stuff like that. It's actually very, very important. So companies should pay more attention to their culture and employer brand. If talent is very important to you, again, I go back to saying what I say about money. It is important. Obviously, people do care about money, but it's only a short-term solution if you want to kind of hire good talent.
So right now, it's not just about what skill sets are needed by all these millennials, but also what can be offered by these companies in attracting these millennials to come and join. And because I think the talent and the skill sets are there, but it's also about how they fit culturally in a company that will also affect the way that they work. Also, the next question is about Baktiar. Let's go back to universities and colleges when these students, before they graduate. Now, Baktiar, you have the privilege of working closely with our nation's future talent. They are our future talent. So in your opinion, what is the biggest challenges or what is the biggest challenge that universities and colleges face when they need to prepare these students to face the workforce, especially now in an increasingly digitized world?
Well, thank you, Nadia, for posting this interesting question. They have been with us for many years. I think the greatest challenge that we face now, I think number one, how best that we can prepare them with the skill set that is required or most sought after by employers nowadays. I think with the digital kind of landscape, I'm sure there's a lot of digital skill set that we need to prepare them. That is number one. Number two, our concern is how best that we can share challenging environment in the labor market to our students in the campus, which is now studying. What is the main issue here is graduate mismatch. So there is something is happening now and it's real. With a lot of talent outside, a lot of talent that is available in the market or will be going up in the market this year is offered something below their qualification, which is underemployment. Not just addressing employment itself, but also underemployment. So the biggest challenge is graduate mismatch. If I can share a little bit about certain information that I have here, in 2016, about 30.7% or 669,000 graduates are working in a non-graduate occupations. Can you imagine? And in fact, you see in the market itself, in the labor market itself, a lot of opportunities that is available in the market is not related much or to graduate kind of background. So yes, our greatest challenge is how best that we can prepare this mindset that in the markets, there's a lot of graduate mismatch on top of your preparing yourself to be in the market. Thank you, Nadia.
It's very interesting that you brought this up because the Prime Minister just recently launched the Penjana KPT CAP, or the Career Advancement Program, where I think graduates can take advantage of this program to improve their marketability. So again, it works both ways. It's not just about what the talents have to offer in terms of their skills, and not just what the companies have to offer in terms of culture-wise, but also these students, when, before they graduate, they need to take this opportunity to plan their career and take advantage of whatever platforms there are to improve their marketability, so that they are at an advantage when they enter the workforce. Now, my next question is for Ang from Cyberview. With Cyberjaya on its way to becoming a global tech hub, it's fair to say that we expect to see more tech companies to be based here in Cyberjaya. So what is Cyberview's role in providing a collaborative ecosystem to nurture talent? What are perhaps the existing and upcoming initiatives that we have by Cyberview?
Thank you, Nadia, for the question. So I'm just going to start, I think, a little bit back on the history on how we became the Tech Hub developer. I think we got the role way back in 2019. And since then, I think subsequently, we got the new master plan developed for Cyberjaya. Cyberjaya is currently developed or divided into 4 zones. For those who are still new to this, we have the west, the north, the east, the west and north, the south, as well as the downtown Cyberjaya. So for the 4 zones, the west zone will be where the education hub is. At the same time, that will be also the center where a lot of the industry and academia collaboration will happen as well. Now, coming back to the initiatives part, in Cyberview, we definitely have programs that are catered for talent development. I think Baktiar is also very familiar with that. Under the Living Lab initiative, we have 4 pillars that we work with on the different sides of the ecosystem. We cover things like talent, accelerator, we cover pilot, technology pilot testing, as well as on SME development as well. So these are the 4 things that we work on for the entire ecosystem. But if we go back to the core of this, which is the talent initiatives, we divide our target again into 3 different groups. We start with the school students. At the same time, moving up, we have undergrads, where MMU is one of those universities that we are working with. At the same time, at a professional level, meaning that those individuals who are already working or who are in between jobs and so on, those are already in the job market. So out of these 3 different targets, we do have different programs for each of them. So under K-12 or under the school students group, what we're working on is early exposure to STEM. So we do work with our partners, in this case, MDEC, to have the Digital Maker Hub available, which actually exposes students to early stage of STEM education, which technically means, science, technology, education, engineering, and mathematics. So that will actually provide them with that kind of skills and the kind of things that we're talking about in IR 4.0, in the technology development that we're talking about here at a very, very early stage. So that's what we're working on. We have facilities in the lab that allows them to personally, experience on how STEM works, how to deal with 3D printers, how to work on programming through some of the tools like Arduino and so on. So that is the school-going students part of things. And then when it comes to undergraduates, of course, then we're going at the university level as well as polytechnics and so on. So at this point in time, what we're doing is actually to work on the skills training. So we do provide throughout the years skills training, various skills training to undergraduates that covers things like technical skills, that covers things like soft skill, as well as entrepreneurial skills as well. So these are some of the things that we work on, and to address some of the issues that were raised by the universities in terms of employability. So definitely we want to look at also job matching programs as well that happened for the past few years. And then not forgetting the fact that we are also working on the networking with the universities as well as the industry to ensure that both parties actually come together to talk within the same platform. And under the professional side, of course, we also work on various capacity building programs with the SMEs, as well as the workers, as all the knowledge workers that are actually working within the SMEs. So in this aspect, actually, we do work with capacity building programs for the SMEs. And last year, for example, we worked on these few programs actually quite a bit at the one of our building at Rekascape. So yeah, it has been quite well received, and these are actually the three main components that we're talking about when it comes to talent development for us. And throughout the years, we are working with multiple partners that we have actually encountered. At the same time, under the CLL or the Cyberview Living Lab program, we also have the accelerator part, which actually produces actually some very interesting startups that also become our partners eventually to work on some of the talent programs. So for example, I think to quote a couple, we have a Creative Sandbox who actually focuses on children's education. And we also have, Intern Spoon, who actually works on internship to solve the internship problem for enterprises as well. So all in all, since about 2015, we have actually engaged more than about 4,000 plus students, various levels throughout the years. And how does it make a difference moving forward? So the program, the content itself was still more or less the same. We are still collecting feedback from various parties, from employers, from also universities on what are the things that we need to work on in terms of the content skills, in terms of training, in terms of programs, job matching, and so on. But how we work will change moving forward. We are looking at a more collaborative approach where we are looking for more partners instead of doing it ourselves. Because as we move on, we believe that, and we have seen quite a lot of different parties are working very hard on addressing the talent issues, the talent problems, the various things raised with regard to talent. Take for example, my fellow panelists today, I mean, WOBB is doing quite a bit of things on how to work on the hiring issues. And I think, of course, university side, MMU is working very hard on that as well. So moving forward, what I'm saying is that a lot of attention will be given to what's the model moving forward? How do we collaborate with other partners to make things happen instead of us doing, from A to Z per se? Thank you.
That's right. I think we look forward to being, in a global tech hub. We look forward to a more collaborative initiatives with more partners who comprise of industry players and also those from universities and colleges as well. Now, Derek, you mentioned earlier that even though we are in an era of digitalization, it doesn't necessarily mean that you must possess the technical skill in order to work in a tech company, but rather having a good understanding of how these technology companies work will help you navigate through in the workforce. So with companies dealing with unprecedented levels of tech disruption, what has impacted today's talent market greatly?
Well, yeah, so I think the talent market, the obvious answer is the talent market is obviously related to the demand from the employer side. So it's been a conversation for a while already that a lot of companies actually want to hire digital technical talent, but then there's a lack of supply. So increasingly, I think the talent market will go more and more in that direction, right? More because people, when they don't have jobs, then they're going to have to figure out, oh, how do I get a job? And the good news is that, while I think, universities are obviously trying, which is a very good thing, to try to kind of bridge that gap. The rate of innovation is so fast, right, that even the companies themselves are like, trying to adapt very quickly. So the education system is obviously, there's a process, right? Let's say coming out of syllabus and all that. So, so the gap, this is kind of like a little bit of my prediction. Like the gap might become even wider as time goes by. But the good news is for technical and digital skills, a lot of talent out there. I think whatever you learn from university is good. It could be a foundation, but you could quite easily supplement it with a lot of things that are available online. So that's what I like about the digital skills. Actually, a lot of the learnings and stuff like that, you have people like, around the world outputting very good learning content. This can be very cutting edge kind of stuff that they're experimenting with, and you can learn directly from them on the internet. And I think a lot of talent right now see this change, I suppose. So a lot of people actually go to the internet to learn. So I give you even a simple example on WOBB. Like when we hire people, we hire a lot of fresh graduates, for example. We do train them a little bit, but the things that we're building are so new that every time we give everyone a certain task, they actually have to go on the internet and do their own research. Like the CTO doesn't have all the answers. And when they do their research on it, they find a lot of open source stuff, a lot of people in the community willing to share how to build things. And I think we are evolving in that direction when coming to talent. People are becoming more resourceful. No one needs to look at the book and learn something anymore. And I think this is good, right? So again, you have universities that will obviously help build that foundation in terms of education. But the talent is increasingly, evolving and challenging ideas and learning from the best around the world. And that I believe hopefully will help address that gap. But that also means that employers, on one hand, should kind of change the way they hire or look at talent. Not purely oh, I'm only going to hire, let's say we're talking about technical jobs, right? So I'm only going to hire someone with a computer science degree, for example. It's a very limiting way because there's not enough, right, in the first place. So even in WOBB, we actually hire people that didn't come from an IT background, but they went on and embarked in a development course, after they became say an engineer somewhere, not a software engineer, but like an engineer. And then they decide, I don't want to do engineering anymore. And then they come to tech. So we have a lot of examples of people like this. And I think the talent market will slowly shift in that direction where people are more fluid, right, in trying to learn what they want to learn. And their careers can shift more to tech as people realize that, access to learning tech is out there on the internet. So that should help, I think, over time, kind of help employers hire and help talent find jobs at the same time.
I think this is also what Baktiar was mentioning previously, is that in universities, they have a role to prepare the mindsets of these students so that they know when they enter the workforce, they are not completely bound to what they have learned, to the courses that they took, to their qualifications. They're not completely bound to it when they enter the workforce. They have to learn how to adapt and adjust and not necessarily work in the field that is expected. just because they took that course or they took that field of study. So Baktiar, what are your thoughts on what academia or higher learning institutes on their roles, on what they can do to prepare students in today's changing landscape? Although that all of these digital skills can be acquired through self-learning, as what Derek mentioned, but the foundation that they get during their time in universities and colleges is also important. So what's your thought on what these universities can do to prepare these students in the current time?
Okay, thank you very much, Nadia. Thank you for the awesome question. I think what we need to do in terms of the perspective of higher education career services, in a way, I think we need to continue what we call it a comprehensive ecosystem for career development that we need to put in place when we prepare our talent before they go in the market. We will continue reskilling and upskilling is something that we will continue. That is definitely one focus. Number two is about entrepreneurship. We need to, in a way, encourage our talent to be prepared that, hey guys, talents, getting a job is very challenging. So you need to have other skills. Maybe entrepreneurship is the way moving forward that you want to do. And maybe not entrepreneurship, maybe another angle that we want to do, which is related, which is now happening, is gig economy. So, but end of the day, it's not just you working with the company or you become an owner of a company. You can be your own expert, but you want to be independent. So all these things, upskilling, reskilling, entrepreneurship, and also gig economy, we will need to do it in a comprehensive manner, because we always like to, we always educate our students. Getting a job is not getting a job. It's the whole idea of what is your value proposition and how you network. I think most of the students, when they try to get a job, they think that by having certain qualification, with, let's say, academic credentials and certain, skill set, they can get a job. But in the reality, sometimes it's not just that academic credential and skill set. It's more on your networking. So it's about who the one that you know, and how do you network, and how you put your personal branding or your value proposition on the table when you network with these people. So these are the things that I think we want them to be prepared, because I think just per se prepare them getting a job and giving them skills is not enough. I mean, in fact, the way we notice the way students applying or getting a job is a little bit different as compared to what the employers are trying to do. Usually students will go for career fairs and everything, but from the HR perspective, they usually online or kind of platform, and they will go through within their circle to get talent. So these are the different approach to getting or job search. So again, like I mentioned, I think moving forward, what we need to do, or we need to prepare in these three categories, and we need to do it in a very holistic manner. So it's an end-to-end kind of experience while they are in study in university 3 years or 4 years down the road. Thank you, Nadia.
Ang, at Cyberview, we fully understand the importance of embracing a collaborative, multi-stakeholder approach, as you've explained earlier, to acquire talent and nurture a high-quality, knowledge-based workforce. And this is all the more important in today's world, and is definitely in line with the government's commitment to drive Industrial Revolution 4.0. So on this note, Ang, what is the biggest challenge in talent development today, and what can be done to overcome this?
I think in terms of the challenges that you asked, I think my fellow panelists have already actually given some of their opinions, and I think we got quite a balanced look from both sides, I think from Derek as well as Baktiar. And how I want to approach this is to look into how we are approaching the issues as well as the entire challenge. So from us, I think I still believe that, I mean, delving a little bit deeper into the multi-stakeholder approach, we still believe that there are multiple parties that are doing a lot of amazing work about talent development in the country. As you mentioned just now as well, Nadia, the government has also just announced the KPT-CAP program, which stands for, I think, Career Advancement Program. And that alone actually had about 100 million, more or less, that is going into the program itself. So what I'm trying to say is that we want to bring each of the solutions provider, as well as the parties that we're talking about here, the universities. We want to talk about the providers, solution providers. We want to talk to the hiring companies as well, to bring them together into a platform to discuss about, or to talk, to see how we are able to solve the issues, because we believe that the solutions provider do have the right and necessary solutions for the issues, which, again, how do we get them to the right place, to the right time, and to get the issue solved? I think these are some of the things that we're trying very hard to work on. And so therefore, I think over here, I think I'd like to do a call for action for companies who are hiring. If, let's say, you have issues on finding the right talent, or you have not heard about programs, you have no idea on what's happening in the the entire scene of talent development, or you're not aware, I mean, do get in touch with us, and then we'd like to hear from you on what is plaguing you at the moment. Because on the other hand, we do see that a lot of initiatives have been initiated by different parties, and to try to address, tackle the issues that we talked about here. And because of that, companies, hiring issues, difficulties, do talk to us. At the same time, we are working very closely with universities as well as solutions provider. I've spoken to Baktiar as well as Derek some time ago on how we can actually get all the solutions, all the people together, and put on the table the solutions, the issues, the problems, and see how that can be addressed. Because I still believe that there are a lot of good work that has been put forward by different people as well. Now, talking about the part on collaboration. So the different parties need to come together, like I mentioned before. So if, let's say, there are solutions provider as well that you would like to approach us, I mean, do come forward, and we're happy to listen to that, to you as well. And again, on our own, looking at the impact of COVID-19, we do understand that there is certain effect on the hirers or the employers. So this year we actually introduced 2 incentives, I would say, just briefly, on how to address the issues faced by the employers, especially in Cyberjaya. So in this case, we have introduced 2 things. Number one is actually on credits on job postings to those SMEs, as well as on internship hiring incentive as well to those SMEs who are here in Cyberjaya. So for those companies, again, that have no idea, have not heard about this, I mean, to come forward, and especially those in Cyberjaya, then we're happy to talk about this with you. And definitely there are a few ways to get in touch with us. And one of the ways definitely we launched the Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center, for those of you who have not already known, back in March, that will be able to address some of your issues. And I think, we'll be able to later share the contact details. Thank you.
That's right. If for those who have further inquiries later on, they can contact our Cyberjaya Investment and Services Center, or CISC. For contact details, you can go to our social media handles. You can WhatsApp or email or call them, or even visit this one-stop center where we provide all the information you need, including on the universities and colleges that we have in Cyberjaya and the opportunities that you have here in this smart city. Now, my last question is for all the panelists. While there is a continuous demand for digital literacy in business operations and processes, the majority of businesses may still be behind. We can't deny that when it comes to digital transformation. However, things have started to change due to the pandemic. So the question is, how do we strike a balance between the supply and demand? How do we strike a balance between both businesses and the job seekers? So Baktiar, I think I'll throw this question to you first.
Okay, thank you, Nadia. How do we strike a balance? I think number one, I agree on Ang's view that we need to continue work in a collaborative method, and we need to do more in terms of collaboration, not just participating in events that organized by our partners, but doing more in terms of how best that we can work on the similar kind of mission to address this digital workforce challenge that we are facing now. That is number one. I think number two, we need to, in a way, as mentioned, need to continue to encourage industry partners to engage with the university in a more real kind of collaboration, not just on research base, but more on a real business case or project base that can, in a way, expose students with the working environment as early as possible. What does it mean? It means that students are able to, in a way, prove themselves with the technical skills that they have during studies to participate in certain projects that is available for them to work on during studies with a strong collaboration with the industry during the studies. I think number three is for us from our side is for career services to, in a way, continue to coach and to guide the students talent based on their profiling in order for them to be more agile with a clearer mindset, for them to, you know, prepare themselves, not just being in the course that they're taking now, but the whole idea of how best the profiling enables them to understand what sort of value proposition they can offer to the company, as mentioned by our friend from WOBB. It doesn't have to be like you want to be a technical expert in IT. It doesn't have to come up with the IT degree for you to be in that kind of position. Lifelong learning is a process. So I think with the clear understanding by the students providing during the studies, you can be anywhere, anyone you want to be based on the talent and strength that you have. With that kind of conversation that we have with the career center, I'm sure we can you know strike a balance for them to be prepared the uncertainties that we are facing now in the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Baktiar. I think I'm sure all of us can agree to your insights as well. Derek.
Yeah, so I think it's great to hear that, you know, education and, you know, all the government-related functions are trying to address this problem. One thing I would probably say to an employer in terms of something very practical and immediate, because, you know, it might take some time for any initiative to really have an impact on the talent market, right? To kind of bridge that gap. The one thing I will tell you right now is like, yeah, you should invest in your people. So what I mean is that you can't just, it's very difficult for you to just wait for the talent market to catch up to demand, because by then your company will be crippled. Let's just put it that way. Because again, as I said earlier, the rate of innovation is so fast, right? And if you think you have to change, that's great news. You're already ahead of a lot of companies who are not changing, but you also have to realize there are already pure 100% tech companies that exist in the market, and they are very sexy to talent, right? So, I mean, I won't name the names. There are lots of big tech startups that have grown and they attract a lot of talent. So a lot of tech people naturally go there. And if you are a company that's trying to embrace tech and, you know, and try to change, that's great. That's a great step. But you have to realize that naturally you may not attract the best people, at least in the beginning. So something you could try to do is like in WOBB, right? Yeah, we are not, when we started a few years ago, obviously no one knew who we were and all that. So what we did was we just identified people who are digitally savvy. They have the mind for tech. Maybe they don't have a lot of experience in tech, and we invest a lot of time, you know, putting them through courses online, trying to get like short-term consultants to come in to help us fix certain things. But the consultant then also teaches our internal staff how to take it forward, you know, because the consultant can't stay there for long, right? So we use like these various methods to kind of upskill the people who are very driven, who are very interested in tech, to come and join your company. And that's the most practical way I know that you can try to address this problem, rather than just like sitting there and say, hey, there's not enough tech people, you know, it's very hard to hire tech people, which is true. But as you can see, the industry is trying to solve that. But when I say industry, the education and all the government-related initiatives are trying to solve that, but you can't just wait for that to happen. So hire a lot of inexperienced people. Most of them are very young, they're very driven, they're very hungry. Invest money and time in training them, upskilling them, coach them. You know, maybe you need one senior person, one experienced person, and then a lot of them are very junior, and you use this senior person to bring the whole team up. You know, that's a very practical way to do it. So one other thing I want to point out about tech is that with tech talent or digital talent is that you're not just competing with Malaysian companies. Tech, right, is one of those roles where I had a developer last time who was working for WOBB, and then after that he worked for a Canadian company, I believe, from Malaysia. You know, he's based in Malaysia, but he worked for Canadian, and after that he worked for a Singaporean company, but he's still based in Malaysia. because tech and digital roles are one of the roles where you can actually work remotely very effectively. Companies are very used to doing it. And one of the vision that I kind of expect to happen is that knowledge workers, say 20 years from now, a lot of knowledge workers will increasingly go in that direction. So definitely digital and tech is like that. Like Southeast Asia, right, will be one big talent market for knowledge workers. So anyone that is good in tech could be hired by a big company, Indonesia or Philippines, but they're in Malaysia, you know, so or in Singapore. Like, you become more and more common. So as a employer, I'm telling you this, yeah, don't just wait for the education or government initiatives. Yeah, you fix the gap. Even by the time they manage to fix the gap, the competition for talent will just keep growing, because that is already the direction that it's going. So the most practical thing I can advise is maybe I have one senior person, or you hire some consultants, but then you have like a team of fairly inexperienced people who are very driven. They want to learn about tech, and you invest in them, invest time, invest money, right? And that's how you solve that gap now. So, yeah.
This is a very important message, I think, for employers and also for job providers. They also have to adapt through this digitalization that we are in right now, not just the talents, but also the job providers. So what are your thoughts on this?
I'd like to, go on a little bit, on the theoretical side. Okay, so it's like this. So we have demand and supply. So in economics, we call that, when you try to balance it, you're trying to go for equilibrium. So technically, that doesn't really happen most of the time. And what we are doing actually is trying to move towards matching both sides and to make both sides to be in a balanced way. Now, there are always constant changes in either one of these elements. So technically speaking, that you won't get a perfect equilibrium, let's put it that way. But coming back to the topic here, my message to actually both parties is actually this. I think, again, I would like to stress that a lot of parties are doing a lot of good work at the behind the scene, which I think the businesses as well as job seekers should know. So take, for example, I think there are a lot of messages or some of the comments on universities being slow or, adapting to the development of technology. I think generally people need to understand that the universities are also actually revising the syllabus actually quite constantly to a point of perhaps every year sometimes, or 2-3 years once. And MQA is also making the necessary, the Malaysian Qualification Agency, who is in charge of the program standards, are also working very hard to ensure that this happens, where they actually work on the program standards and revise it every about 5-year odd time to update whatever the students are actually going through, and providing a guideline to the universities on where the university should go about this. And message to the companies as well, businesses as well, that agree that with Derek that we don't have to wait for the government's initiative for this, a lot of things to happen, but those companies are struggling, or if you have issues or you problems in terms of going through the entire digital transformation exercise, do look out, because there are agencies, there are initiatives that have already been actually launched and provided by different agencies, and do have a look at those and do consider, because the fact that post COVID-19, a lot of impact start to be felt and seen, and the companies have sort of like no choice but to see, how we want to move forward. It's not about do we move forward, but it's how we move forward and when. So it's a very strategic decision that an organization needs to make. If they have not done that, that's number one. And message to students would be, they really, really need to adapt. I think Baktiar has also actually brought this up as well. So once graduation, once you've completed your study, you've graduated and you've joined the company, I think the least expectation from the company is for the student to be able to adapt to whatever they are required to work on. Don't forget, the knowledge you get from the universities is what to prepare you for your job. And the job, same title, in different companies work differently. So I think the students have to realize that, and they have to be ready to adapt to what is required of them. And don't forget, at undergrad level or at fresh grad level, you are just about to shape your career. So do try to adapt to different situations and see what works best for you before making any major decisions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ang. We have a lot of questions here from the audience. Let's take the first one. The first one is from Nani from the Malaysian Reserve. This is for Derek, actually. The first question, she has two questions. Does WOBB see more or less companies hiring, and which industries are still actively looking for talent? That's the first question. The second question, as the unemployment rate drops to 4.7% in July, do you see this figure continuing to drop in the upcoming months?
Yes, thank you, Nani, for the question. So, as WOBB, we are job portals. Obviously, we do monitor the market. We do look at other job portals, the more dominant ones, to see how they are doing. From what I noticed, right? So not any particular job portal, but across the board, a lot of the major job portals, it looks like the number of jobs being advertised have dropped anything between 30 to 50% of their usual, right? Which is quite a lot. Now, this is not obviously accurate reflection of the recruitment market. It could just mean that a lot of companies maybe they're still recruiting, but they're advertising less. It could be, but it is a good indication, right? Rough indication. The good news for WOBB, at least, is that actually the number of jobs on WOBB, that means the companies advertising jobs on WOBB right now, is much higher than before MCO started. Much higher. So actually we've grown. So we had like a certain number of active jobs on our portal, and then obviously when the lockdown happened, it dropped significantly. But now we are actually 30 to 40% higher than before MCO, and we are actually record high. So the companies that use, now there's only two possibilities, right? When I actually look at this, I mean, didn't analyze it in detail. The first possibility is that a lot of the companies that use WOBB to hire are actually tech or like startups or e-commerce companies or leaning to tech companies like telcos, telecommunication companies, right? And these companies are still doing well. They are still growing, so they are still hiring. Therefore, a lot of them are still advertising with us. So that's one reason. The second reason, I believe, is because even companies that are not in this group, they are naturally tech people, they are trying to change their talent base right now because they know they need to evolve as a company. So they're coming to a platform like WOBB, which is because we're naturally like professional, like millennial kind of talent. A lot of them are very digital savvy. They're coming to a portal like WOBB to actually hire talent because they are trying to change their business. They're trying to evolve. They're trying to innovate. And I think that's probably why a lot of them are advertising with us. So that could be a signal, right, of the direction also of where the talent market will go and where companies will still want to hire. So if you are an employee listening to this, what I'm suggesting, which is quite aligned with what we're saying today, is that you have to try to lean more, I suppose, to like understanding how the digital world works. You may not be a technical talent, you don't have to be, but you should have some sense of, let's say, how big companies like Lazada or like Amazon, how they work. You can read their stories. So you're not clueless when you actually go for interviews. To your second question about the unemployment rate dropping, will it continue to drop in the upcoming months? Well, I'm obviously optimistic, and I'm going to use some knowledge that I know what's going on. There are some companies that are genuinely affected by this pandemic issue. Like the obvious ones would be like travel related companies, hospitality companies. They don't have a lot of business. They're affected. They're not hiring. Some of them are shutting down. Right. This is obvious. And then there are some companies on the other extreme, like tech companies, that are hiring aggressively still. But in between, actually, and this is from surveys that I've done and speaking to people, in between, there are a lot of companies that their business is somewhat affected, but they don't really have a serious problem right now, meaning that they know they can sustain, they can grow. And the only reason they're not hiring is because everyone is kind of, let's wait and see. That's it, There's a huge proportion of the market right now who are in wait and see mode, even though actually they can hire, because no one knows what next year is going to look like. Or when you're going to get a vaccine, are you going to lock down again? Like all those questions. And so I actually think a lot of it is a confidence issue at the moment. And if when as small companies start to realize that, actually it's not too bad. Like we have it, yes, I know the news right now shows that it's growing again, but you know, we still have it more or less under control. And hopefully there will be more positive news coming in terms of the let's say the vaccine side or whatever it is, like, you know, to just give people confidence that, oh, it's okay. These employers that are in the middle, in the wait and see zone, will start hiring again, increasingly more and more. So companies that have already kind of been hit, I think they've already been hit. So to your question, Nani, I'm being an optimist here. I hope and believe that the unemployment rate will continue to drop as more of these companies get more confident that I need to hire, right? So if I don't hire, if I wait too long, by the way, there are some companies that they are not in the wait and see zone. They are actually being competing for talent right now. I really have companies. I have a friend who runs his own company who came up to me one day and said, "Hey, your business must be very good right now." And I was very surprised. Oh, why do you say so? Because your recruitment. A lot of people would assume our business is like suffering, right? I said, no, I think a lot of very forward-looking CEOs will see this as a window, you know, to hire all the best talent, because there are a lot of good people in the market, many of them not by choice. So it's a good time to start like headhunting and pinching people, you know, and he's right. There are companies who are thinking like that. So if you are still not sure, you're still wait and see mode, you might, when the whole market kind of opens up back to normal again, you might start this at a disadvantage when you realize, oh, that this ABC company has really hired a lot of good people already while we are in wait and see zone. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it will go in this
good
direction.
news for job seekers, because I think there's a growing concern about looking for jobs post MCO, post COVID-19, that there is a hurdle that we need to go through. But listening from what you've said, Derek, and you're an expert in recruitment, we do see a light, the light at the end of the tunnel. So that's good news. Now, before we go on to more questions, due to time constraints, we may not be able to address all. So for those who have submitted their questions, do leave your contact details right now in the chat box as well, so that we can get back to you later on. But we will get to some more questions since we do have a little bit more time. Now, the next question I think is for Baktiar. Okay, this is about a mismatch of graduates in the job market. How do we address this issue, and are there any challenges? Also, what's your advice to job seekers? So Baktiar, I'll have you take this one.
Okay, thank you very much, Nadia. How do we address mismatch? I think number one, I think you need to see your, if you're still studying, you need to see your career center staff and start to put your situation on the table and have a career conversation. I think a lot of students, when they are still studying, they do not really drop by to the career services that is available in the institution. I think what the whole idea of this career conversation is to do what I call it profiling. Get to know your profiling better and how best that you could work on your strength rather than on your weaknesses. And you know, that is the first thing. You need to talk to your career advisor staff and see what are the things you need to be prepared and based on your profiling. Number two, I think to address this job mismatch is, I think for us and the career services is to, in a way, guide and match your talent with our partners that is available in the market or industry. Meaning that we need to continue to expose you as early as possible, maybe in year one or maybe in during foundation, to be exposed what do you mean by this kind of talent that is needed in the industry. So working closely by matching your talent with industry is important. I think number two, I think for the student side, I think you need to prepare yourself better. You know, lifelong learning is an ongoing process. Yes, you have a degree in certain areas, but you need to learn more of other things. Now with the Coursera, with the online courses, so you need to do more. So I think most of students, they always say that getting degrees is enough. So active in certain interest club is enough, but other things which is not available, they have not yet really dived into that. So I think the whole idea for preparing with certification or courses that is being offered online, they need to be there in their mindset. Okay, I think number three, I think I would like to share in terms of this job mismatch among talent in the market is for them to do what we call it labor market research. a lot of students sometimes where they, I mean, yeah, they take certain courses, but they need to understand, though they are taking, let's say, history, but they know it's very challenging to get a work in the history kind of industry. So by doing research into labor market, they know how to position themselves based on the profiling and talent that they have. So I think these three things, match, prepare, and also labor research is something they need to do lah. So that hopefully when they come up in the market, they can in a way engage with the administrator. Oh, maybe last one, I forgot. Most of the students, they always waited at the end of the year during internship to network the industry. My advice to them, do when you start the first day, when you enter university, to have this mindset, who are the HR networking and that I'm gonna continue to work and get to know them as soon as possible. Because usually they will wait until internship and they will wait during final year project and then they will start to apply. I think that's quite late. You need to do it as early as possible to network the industry, especially the HR director, managers and everything. Thank you, Nadia.
Thank you, Baktiar. Now, the next one, I'll give this one to Ang. Ang, in your opinion, what type of jobs are needed or are in demand in the near future, and what does Cyberjaya has in offering these opportunities?
Yeah, I'll take this. I take the easy one because Derek has just provided the answer earlier, where he actually mentioned there's a lot of leaning to digital skills that we talked about. I think Derek gave a very good example over there. What we're expecting is that with the, going back to the questions that we mentioned on the onset of IR 4.0, the various digital transformation that the company is going through, what we're seeing is that a lot of work will be leaning towards that. Again, quoting examples from Derek, you don't have to be necessarily a programmers, but then you have to understand how things, how the company actually operates and what are the skills required to do certain work, the digital skills required to perform certain work now. So what we're saying is that, to boil it down to, a very layman example is that, the work might be manual previously and might not have used any tools, but now companies might have introduced new tools, digital tools to make things faster. I think companies are constantly looking for ways to make operation more efficient as well as cost efficient in that way. So digital skills is the way to go. I think that's generally expected. Various skills, and I think students, job seekers should actually go into, again, being adaptive and look into areas that they're interested in and see what are the technical skills or digital skills that is required over there, and quickly adapt to those skills and learn up those skills to make themselves competitive in the job market. I think that's what I gather actually.
Thank you, Ang. Now, we'll take one more question, but for those who have submitted their questions to the chat box, please do leave your contact details so that we can be in touch with you later on. Now, Derek, you mentioned earlier about how employers and job providers should invest in their talent and train their talent. We have a question here. Some companies are reluctant to invest too much to upskill their employees because they might leave and take those skills elsewhere. So, Derek, what advice do you have for those companies?
Yeah, well, great question. This is obviously true. It does happen. But I've actually read this somewhere. I can't credit the person because I can't remember the source. But somewhere along the lines of like someone asking the CEO like, or why should we train someone, just and then they might leave later, right? Which is the exact same question you're asking. And then the CEO then responded, well, what if we don't train them and they stay? I want you to think about that for a moment. What if we don't train them and they stay? So do you really want your company to be filled with people that are untrained? Because that is as good as your company will be, right? Your company is only as good as its people. So yes, there is a risk. Some of your employees will leave, right? So you can't help, right? So it's a very broad question, right? So you train them, but then there are also other things that you need to do, right? You make sure your culture is good, that people don't have a reason to leave, that they're happy there. And you're training them as a positive, right? So someone wouldn't want to leave you if they're experiencing something positive in your company in general. You can't help it. Some people will still leave, but don't don't let your entire business suffer because you're worried that 10% or 20% of the people that you train will leave, right? How about the other 50, 80% that stayed behind? They are trained now, they're better, they're growing, right? And one other thing about also to people who are always worried about employees leaving, number one, it's a bit more normal now in the current market that people do leave, you know, say after maybe between 2 to 5 years, you know, it seems fairly more and more common, and they're not bad talent. They're just like, it's just how the market works right now. So overly worrying about that is not good. Number two, when they do leave, where do they go, right? Do they go somewhere better? Are they growing their career? Because if they are, it's actually a selling point for you to keep on attracting great talent to your company. So look, you know, we have this person, he joined as a graduate, we trained him, he grew, he's a manager now, and now he's working for X company doing this. People are inspired by stuff like that. Like don't worry too much about people leaving. Yeah, just make sure that you train your people, have great talent. Some of them will leave naturally, but if the business is doing well and is growing, most of your good people will stay. So WOBB is an example. We had a point in our in our growth where there are a lot of people in the sales team actually left. But apart from that kind of point, right? Most of the people that started the company with me are still here until today, and they're employees, right? And so I think our staff turnover rate is something like 2%, 2.5%, and we are a technology startup. So just think about that for a moment. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Derek. Thank you, Derek, Ang, and also to Baktiar. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have for today. So on behalf of Cyberview, I would like to thank all our panelists once again for sharing your valuable thoughts with us. And for our audience today, we hope that you've enjoyed today's session and found it insightful. I mean, I know there are a lot of questions that we were not able to address today, but please do leave your contact details. There's still some time, and we will be in touch with you later on. So thank you to everyone once again for our discussion called Nurturing and Acquiring Talent in Today's Digital Workforce. We will be back soon with other interesting topics as part of the Cyberview webinar series. So please do keep updated and follow us on our social media handles. So thank you to our panelists and to our audience.
Thank you.
Thank you.